Finally, let's welcome Dr. Ryan Jordanhazy, Medical Director of the Emergency Department here at Novant Health Brunswick Medical Center. It's so good to have you here again.
Hey, glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Let's reintroduce you and tell our viewers where you grew up and where you went to school.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Ultimately,
I forgot that.
Yeah, and then I went to medical school at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem. Worked at one of the larger Novant facilities there, and then just over 3 years ago moved down here to become the medical director of this ER here.
And we're so happy you're here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
I'm sure you love it, and your kids probably love it here
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
You don't have the ice storms you had in Winston-Salem, right?
Yeah, the weather is nice.
Yeah. So you've been here at the emergency department a little over 3 years. And how many patients do you see on average in a day?
Yeah, if you were to average it out, like per day for the whole year, it's probably right around the mid to upper 80s. Highly variable. You know, in the summertime we can get really, really busy, average over 110, 115 a day for months at a time as the population of the county spikes with all the tourists.
Yeah. And during COVID, I imagine you were very busy.
Oh, yeah. COVID was the busiest time we've had. We set some records for daily volumes. We were seeing over 150 patients certain days with
That's hard
with
to
COVID.
Believe in a small facility like this.
Yeah, it was busy.
It was busy. Well, you do have a great team back there. They're hardworking, and I know my husband and I were here on Saturday. He had a little issue, and we came in and we had the best care, just phenomenal care. Your team did a great job.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really proud of our team all the way from the top down to the nursing staff and all the supervisors and support staff. We have a really, really great working team here.
Yeah, it was a very satisfying visit.
Good, I'm glad to hear it.
Have that in an emergency department. So, well, today we're going to talk about summer safety. Lots of things to talk about. So we'll just kind of go through the topics. Let's start with water and pool safety. So,
okay,
what do you recommend?
Well, safety.
Common sense, right?
Common sense is a big thing. Start with the young ones, the kiddos. You know, you always got to keep a really close eye on them. Make sure that they're capable swimmers. Make sure that they have appropriate flotation devices and safety devices. Don't kind of let your guard down and assume that you're going to hear something go wrong in a pool, because sometimes something will happen and it can be very quiet. So any young kids, you got to pretty much just constantly stay on top of them and make sure someone's watching them.
And they're all over the place. You can't keep track
exactly.
of them. And they all look alike.
Yeah, it is tough, especially here at a public pool with a bunch of other kids. So you got to really, really stay vigilant.
Yeah. How about life jackets?
Life jacket's super important. Anytime a kid is in the water, especially if it's not necessarily a kiddie pool or anything like that, make sure they have a certified flotation device or a life jacket, especially on a boat or something like that.
Yeah, I know they're kind of cumbersome, but...
Yeah, my daughter, the first few times we've taken her out of boat, she hated wearing her life jacket, but they get used to it eventually.
They do.
And you cannot take it off.
It's like the masks. They got used to it.
Right, exactly.
They'll get used to that.
Exactly.
And they don't like car seats, but they get used to that too.
But you do it.
Yeah.
That's right.
How about diving accidents? Do you see many diving accidents?
They're not particularly common, but they are very dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerous.
You got to make sure that the water is at appropriate depth for you to be diving in, and if it's not clearly obvious, don't risk anything.
Yeah.
Bad diving accidents occur, and it puts a lot of loading force on your head and on your spine, and you can end up with pretty severe, serious spinal cord injuries.
Yeah. And that could happen both in a pool and in the ocean.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. It's so unlevel. Sometimes you walk in and then you just drop off, or you walk in and you go up a hill.
Yeah, the ocean, it
is
tough to judge. So you're better off really not diving head first in any sort of walkable distance into the ocean.
Yeah. Let's talk about ocean safety and like rip currents. I don't recognize those. That really scares me. I've never been caught in one, but I know there are certain things you do. You swim horizontally.
Right, exactly.
Not all that, but have you ever seen somebody who's been caught in one and brought to the emergency department?
Yeah, and those are scary, and they can end up sometimes fatal cases of drowning and things like that. Like you said, they're unpredictable, they're hard to deal with. Even really experienced athletic swimmers can get caught caught in them and have trouble getting out of them. So
Yeah.
there's certain things you can do to sort of avoid certain piers and areas that are marked off. They're marked off for reasons, and
Yeah.
definitely don't go against any sort of local recommendations.
Let's talk about one of my biggest fears is a jellyfish
Oh,
sting.
yeah.
I hate those things.
Jellyfish, yeah.
So what do we do about that?
Well, the main thing is just stay away from them.
Yeah.
You might think that they're dead, so you can go mess with them, poke them around, and get close to them. But even if they are dead, sometimes they can still have some venom in them, or like toxic substances that can get you in trouble and cause a lot of pain.
Yeah, but when you're in the water and they're still alive and they get you,
Right.
you can't avoid them.
No, yeah. I mean, in certain areas, there's plenty of them floating around. So,
Yeah, certain years are worse than others too.
yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, but I know there's a lot of old wives' tales out there about urine and this and that. And,
Right. Yeah, we don't recommend any
You
of
don't
those.
recommend that.
No, I would just
Doesn't
stay
really.
away from those, yeah.
So it's best to just come to the ER.
Yeah, if you're in a lot of pain or if you think there's anything serious
Yeah.
or possible complications from it, we'd be glad to check it out.
Well, that's great. How about sand, burns on the feet? I've had the bottoms of my feet burnt from,
Yeah, I've seen that recently, really
That's
severe
weird.
burns on someone's feet just from walking through the sand. You gotta be really careful. It's easy to underestimate how long it's gonna take you to walk a certain distance to get
That's
to like
my
the
problem,
cooler
yeah.
sand, or you see a piece of shade over there, run to it. But
Yeah.
obviously, especially with kids, you wanna make sure they
Yeah,
have
their little
shoes
feet are so
on,
tender
sandals
and-
on at least.
yeah. Yeah, I try to have shoes on, but
Yeah, sunburn's another big one.
yeah,
We
sunburn
see
is.
that a lot. So you got to be really careful. Provide yourself a bunch of shade. Wear clothes. They make a lot of nice, lightweight sort of beach clothing now that I
And
wear
has
all the
that-
time, and you don't
I
feel
do too.
hot
I
or
have
anything.
shirts that
Right.
are SPF.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't
And then
want to
obviously
mention brands, but
Yeah, yeah. And then obviously sunscreen is big, especially for any kids, because
what number do you recommend SPF?
I think, well, it all depends on your sort of skin tone and skin
Sure.
shade, but at least a 50 for any kids.
Oh yeah, for kids,
Yeah.
absolutely. But my poor grandkids, I don't know how they even got any sun because they were just slathered.
Yeah,
in
that's
it.
how my wife and I are with it. It's like every 20 minutes I'm throwing more sunscreen
Just
on them. I feel
reapply,
like.
reapply,
Yeah, just to be safe.
And then it gets in their eyes and it
Yeah,
burns. And they hate that.
it's a battle.
It is a battle.
Yeah.
So, I'm always concerned about like when my husband will be working out in the yard and it's really too hot and he tends to not drink enough water. So talk to me about heat stroke versus heat exhaustion.
Oh, right, yeah. So heat-related illness. That's another really common thing we see around here. And that's something, we see a lot of the sunburn and things like that with tourists and
Right.
people that aren't necessarily used to it. But even people that live here their whole lives can underestimate how hot it is, and they're outside doing yard work throughout the day, and they end up severely dehydrated, or can even get to the heat stroke level where your body overheats and you get altered mental status, or you get confusion, which can be an emergency, and you can need admission to the hospital.
So at one point, do you want to get to the hospital? Is that at heat exhaustion?
Well, hopefully you avoid it all, right? So
Well, right,
you
okay.
recommend like prevention, right? You want to take a lot of
Right.
breaks. You want to wear protective clothing. You want to stay well hydrated. Anytime the heat index is over 100, I would say, just avoid whatever project, or especially running or working out outside.
Yeah.
Just save it for
Yeah,
another day or
people
a different
who-
time.
Landscapers and construction workers.
Yeah, it's tough for
they
them.
don't have a lot of choice.
Yeah,
you
so
know,
they have to
it's-
be outside.
It's their job, so they need to be really careful.
Yeah.
And just pay attention to the
Right.
symptoms.
And it's easy to underestimate how much body fluid you're losing through sweating.
You know-
So people can come in, like I've seen it, they come in, they say, oh, I've drank 5 water bottles today, but it's not enough sometimes.
Man.
If it's 100 degrees out.
Yeah, well, I guess we don't realize that.
Yeah, just gotta be really careful.
Yeah, there are a lot of boats around here, and a lot of new boaters. They buy a boat and they go out.
Right.
And I think that water safety is really important for those folks. And,
Of course.
And life jackets are very important.
Right.
So, because I'm sure you've seen a number of boat accidents, and they're not.
Yeah, boating. So the number one most important thing was pretty obvious: avoid drinking while boating.
Right.
Even though it's common, but it's illegal and you shouldn't be doing that. That's
Right.
a huge safety hazard.
Yeah.
And like you said, life jackets and just being really careful, especially on busy days, holidays. We see a lot of boating incidents because the waterways are jam-packed and people aren't quite
Right.
experienced enough to know how to avoid certain things.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I wanted to touch briefly on hurricanes and how we're better prepared in terms of medical
Okay.
supplies. What would you recommend?
Yeah, so this is a big issue, especially for anyone with chronic diseases or who are
Right.
older that need very regular medical care. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, evacuate if you can, get somewhere safe,
Sure.
get somewhere far away that you won't have any issues with. But if you do get stuck, we recommend, coordinating with your doctors or with your
Right.
specialists, backup plans in terms of having medications or people that are on oxygen, making sure you have
Right.
backup supplies for your oxygen tanks. Or if you're on dialysis, for example, that obviously is not something that you can store at your
Right.
house, but you need to come up with some plans
Yeah, right.
with your doctors about.
Yeah. So plan ahead.
Correct.
Because we're already in hurricane season.
Yeah, now's the
and
time to be
and
thinking
it's a
about it.
long season.
Yeah, months long.
And, yeah. So it's time to get ready
Yeah,
now.
it really is.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much
Yeah,
for coming
no
on the
worries.
show today. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Yeah,
and,
thanks so much.
Come back and see us soon.
Yeah, I hope everyone stays safe this summer.
Yeah. Yeah. Put that sunscreen on.
Yes, ma'am.